So I hope everyone is doing well today and are as excited as I am to welcome Grant Weiss of Rockwall into our capital raising meeting this week. We at the GOB have been looking from the very beginning for tools that we lovingly wanted to work toward an AI underwriting. And I think Grant is well on the way to that lofty goal. Right now, there's some pieces of this that I was describing it to someone earlier today, that if you took a lot of the marketing data from CoStar and a lot of the graphing and underwriting tools at Red IQ and combine them, you might have something similar. But I think that he's really been spending the last few years building out a wonderful platform. And I want to really just kind of turn it over to Grant. He can introduce himself and maybe give us a quick rundown here. Or if he wants to do it's today is Grant's day. So a pitch deck, whatever he wants to do. And I'll turn it over to you, Grant.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Great to be here with you guys and gals. So as Jim was mentioning, we created this platform over a few-year period. I came from the industry. I've worked in retail shopping center acquisitions and leasing, as well as multifamily development. And essentially what we've been doing is building out a platform where you can go from start to finish in terms of deal flow, deal sourcing and research, all the way through the underwriting and kind of reporting process. So really trying to streamline the workflow. We've had different people say, what Rockval can do in 5-10 minutes, depending on the deal. It takes our team about 2 weeks to complete. And it's something that we're very, very proud of. It's been a long journey to get all of the data and all the calculations and the underwriting all assembled here. I did not have a deck I was going to go through. I'm not sure if a demo is appropriate or kind of. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or any technologies that people are using at the moment in terms of data?
I've got somebody talking in the background that makes it hard to hear you, Grant. I don't know if you can shut them down, Jim, or not.
It's in Grant's room, so because everyone else is muted.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, and I do appreciate everyone staying muted unless you have a specific question. But Grant, most everyone on the network is using an Excel spreadsheet. Many are spreadsheets that a lot of different people have put together different types of spreadsheets. Some of the folks have been using Michael Blank's SDA. Some have been using Spencer Burton's models. We've got people using a dozen different models on the platform, but all of them are based in Excel. And we have a lot of people, an equal number of people that are not underwriters and that are looking for a tool like this, I think, to help them better understand the assets that they're taking a look at. So I think for the underwriters, this is something that can speed things up a lot for them. And for the non-underwriters, I think the question and answer TurboTax simplicity will help a lot of people that are non-underwriters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can just pull up this kind of client deck that we have here. And maybe we can do a pre-recorded demo and kind of send that out. But essentially, taking a lot of steps and combining into one simple workflow. So going from prospecting opportunities, being able to tag them to certain investor groups and clients, things of that nature for yourselves, and then going through a step-by-step pro forma, and then at the end of the day, being able to pull up a collaborative dashboard and also produce high fidelity presentation materials, but having all of the data and the numbers already integrated into that experience. So you're you're not going into Excel and putting your numbers together and dragging and dropping those numbers into some type of reporting system. You have it all in one flow. And what we've done is we've geared up with some premium, institutional quality data partners to drive this. That's kind of one of the number one questions, like, how are you getting all this data? So SafeGraph, for example, this is our location intelligence information. So this is, if you're pulling up a property, you're seeing the tenants in that property. This is for office, retail, and industrial more so. But how many people are visiting this location on a daily basis? Where are those individuals coming from? So if you can imagine looking at a retail and multifamily, very correlated. But being able to pull up a shopping center, for example, and seeing who and from where are people visiting this location, for example. We are also partnered with CompStack. CompStack is on the office, retail, and industrial side of things, but being able to integrate with leases, showing kind of the health of different markets in terms of rents. TREP is really key in terms of a data source, because this is CMBS data and agency data. So CMBS is commercial mortgage-backed security, and what that is a security that is publicly traded. But because they're publicly traded, the properties that are within the CMBS, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac networks, have to do quarterly reports. And this is kind of gold when it comes to data, because these reports, these reports are audited. So being able to pull up rental rates and expenses and expense ratios and things of that nature. I know in Texas, I think on the last call, Texas is a non-disclosure state. How do you get decent information in a non-disclosure state? CMBS data is still reported within Texas, for example. So being able to pull up some information regarding different assets. Esri, if you're not familiar with Esri, it's demographic information, household income, population, things of that nature. Cherry, this is where we pull all of our property data. So all of our parcel records, transaction histories, things of that nature, we're pulling from Cherry, and we have 145 million properties in our system. So we have every property in the country in our system, including residential. Google we use for various kind of data matchings and things of that nature. So, going to the research layer, it's really like, can I search for properties by demographic areas? Can I search for property for either increasing or declining demographics? Can I look at the ownership? Can I pull the tenants and various comps regarding these various assets? And this is kind of that key piece where, outside of platforms like Rockval, there's a few other alternatives in the space, but, having the affordability and also the simplicity, and then like kind of that full user experience from going from this research layer all the way through, we're continuously adding to this piece as well. We will have another add-on called our Deal AI, which will be coming out, and that's really helping you discover opportunities in kind of an assisted way to say, okay, I'm looking for multifamily in West Palm Beach. This is how much equity that I'm able to come up with. This is kind of the targeted IRR, and this is where Rockval in the background is going to be coming up with automated scenarios against these various assets. Again, like, our user experience is meant to be a non-enterprise feeling product, and saying that user experience and making it so that it's just simple and easy to adopt across your team and utilize for everyone. We were at a conference yesterday, and one of the Keller Williams commercial agents were there, and like, we didn't use XYZ software because our teams could not adopt it on the first time, or they couldn't use it the first time they tried to use it. And having that in the back of our mind, we're just continuously trying to make things as automated as possible, as easy as possible, continuously. Being able to put together proper reporting with the data, the financials and things of that nature. It's easy as clicking on a few buttons to create a OM in our system. You don't need to be a designer by any means. It's as simple as we can possibly make it. And that's kind of a high level overview of our platform, and kind of just as kind of like a teaser, I guess, going in here. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Or maybe it's great pitch deck.
So
Yes.
I was asking if it would help you create a pitch deck. So an OM, you answered, it helps you create. So how does it do that? What is the format? How do we use that? Is it in PDF or a slideshow?
Yeah. So right now it's a PDF. And I can pull this up. So this is a kind of a completed interactive dashboard. One of the things that we wanted to do is, and the industry still wants to continuously utilize PDFs, and we fully appreciate that. We do want to keep continuously embracing this concept of an interactive experience. So if you're sharing this with your bank, your partners, investors, you can just send them out a link, and then they can interact with this space. So if they have comments, say, if they want to comment on something like the cap rate, and they can say, hey, this seems a bit, low, or something of that nature. And now they can leave you a comment and have this kind of dynamic experience on reporting. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry about that. But essentially having this dynamic kind of reporting experience on commenting and sharing across the board, and then also taking all of that data on the visualization piece and making it readily accessible in this view. So some of the things that we're adding at the moment is the ability to basically click on any of these assumptions and then bring up live market information regarding any of the assumptions that were made. If I go to the kind of the offering memorandum here, I can simply click on different reporting options that I want to include. So if I want to include my rent roll or not, I can kind of just click on this little eye drop here, and then that will include or not include various reports within this package. And then from here, being able to simply click through and update these images, and then have all of these reports available to you, click download, and then that downloads a PDF that you can go ahead and share if you don't want to utilize kind of the collaborative dashboarding experience. This is kind of the way that we're seeing this platform continuously evolving to where, if you have a pro forma done, all of these numbers, you're not dragging it out of any given system. You are simply able to incorporate those numbers because you already have the pro forma done within this experience, and now you have all of these various numbers completely included in your report. And then if you have to update your pro forma, you don't have to go through the whole reporting process again. And this is kind of that seamless experience that we continuously want to keep pushing towards. It's how do you reduce that disparity of financials versus the data versus the reporting, and that kind of collaboration. How old is the data? So depends on the data provider, but we're updating data every week. So we pull our data from basically the tax assessor records throughout the entire country. Those are updated once a week. The CMBS data is updated once a month. The CompStack data is also updated once a month. And then Esri and those folks have their own basis, but those are essentially monthly. You're pulling from the CMBS data once a month, and because those are quarterly reports, they take essentially a month after those reports are filed to get them updated within these various systems. Building, not demo. Yeah, so essentially the building data on transactions, those are updated weekly from Cherry. And yeah, like this is kind of that basically looking to be the one-stop shop for your whole investment sales process or your acquisition process. So this is kind of like an example of some of the CMBS data, being able to pull up, historical revenues, expenses, CapEx, various kind of operating performance margins, and things of that nature. Being able to pull up comparables within this given market, for example. And then this is, happens to be a retail property, but if there's transactions, transaction history within, various radius, being able to kind of identify those comps for any given asset. And this is, being able to identify. So I'm not sure entirely, what markets everybody's operating in. If everybody's kind of spread out throughout the entire country. Jim, I guess is everybody spread out?
Yeah, we are. We cover almost all 50 states right now.
Oh wow. And this is kind of this is the information that we're pulling from CompStack, for example, on the rental rates and things of that nature. But then also being able to filter on like the heat map and seeing kind of like the different densities of rental ranges in the area, and things of that nature.
So we had a couple of more questions, Grant. When you email the link out for the PDF data, does it contact our contact within the link of where we sent them to view the specific data we want them to see? I'm not sure, Alicia, does that make sense to you, Grant, or do we need clarification on the question?
Yeah, maybe clarification would help. I think.
Go ahead, Alicia.
What I'm asking is if we're sending the link out to a particular investor and it's regarding a specific property, are they limited to solely looking at that property, or is there a capability of them looking for other items?
Right now, they're going to see when you share this kind of deal with them, they would only see this deal here. Yeah, they would have to be users, or I guess on the basis, would you want them to be able to?
No.
Right. So
No.
you want them to have access to this here.
And that's control data. That's only the data that we want them to see on that deal.
In other words, if you send them the PDF, or is there other reports, they're going to be able to look at every aspect of the deal, or just we want to send them just this PDF and that's the only thing they see?
Correct. They're only going to see what you send them, and then you have different kind of options on what assumptions and things of that nature that you would want them to have access to with respect to the OM.
Cool.
Fantastic. So also, speaking of the cap rate was mentioned. So does it have the ability to pull market cap rates by class A, B, and C?
So the cap rate information that we pull is from, the only cap rate information that we're pulling is from the CMBS records. So we're not yet integrated with like RCA data, but that's kind of the next step on our end is RCA or one of these other transaction kind of cap rate providers.
Okay.
But yeah, so like essentially, I don't know if anybody else had.
Yeah, there was a couple of other questions. Number one, when you're clicking on an item, like let's say, for instance, a particular metric, does it tell you where the data source came from to verify? Like if you tell me the area median income is $85,000, I'd like to know, did you make that number up or is there a data source for it?
Yeah. So so like on our, for example, on our performance, so like so like this information here, for example, it's all powered by Esri. So being able to see kind of that attribution for these different key points in terms of the demographics.
And if we wanted to modify the PDF, how easy is it to put in our own, like if we have additional data or we have some pictures, how easy is it to do that? You just add a page in between?
So this is kind of that what you're looking at now. It's like our first iteration of our system. This next iteration, you have multiple templates and additional functionality with respect to the OMs and things of that nature. So right now you have essentially a template. You can change the coloring and things of that nature, but the flexibility is continuously growing in terms of the offering memorandum. And then you can include or not include various pieces of that report.
So at the very least, we could download the PDF, and if we downloaded the PDF, we can edit it and add additional pages in, or is it locked and we cannot?
Oh, for sure. You can definitely have that capability.
Okay. Does the Performa data download into an Excel format?
Yes. So you can export your cash flows, export your assumptions, things of that nature. And then we also have a mobile app. So if you're driving around, if you want to look up the ownership, transaction history on any property, you just click on that property and you'll see a full property record there. Is there video tour capabilities with the system? So do you mean like uploading a video or a video tour onto that kind of Performa ability? Like we don't.
Yes.
Okay. We don't. We haven't had anybody ask that, but that makes sense. That's really easy for us to do. Being able to upload like a video or a video tour, and then you would want to see that on that Performa dashboard. Yeah. That's a good one for sure.
So we also had, how is the data uploaded into your site? John asked that. John, are you asking specifically in regard to the data for the Excel T12 OM and that type of stuff? Or
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Is ideally it's not a line by line. Ideally, you upload an Excel file in a certain format and your site will receive it and dump it into the appropriate fields, or is it some other method?
Yeah. So we're just finishing up our integration with a technology to auto import your T12s, operating and rent rolls into the whole system.
Mm-hmm. So what will we have then on our end? We have a template to follow, or how will it achieve that or extract that data?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about uploading into the system.
Yeah, like a rent roll or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So the technology that we've integrated is actually really, really powerful. So you can basically upload in any Excel or PDF format, and it auto parses. Have you ever, I guess, used like a CRM, like a HubSpot or like a Salesforce or something like that?
No.
So essentially the process is you upload the rent roll that you were giving. You do not have to modify it. And we have, say, a set of 10 fields. And all you're saying is this field goes here, this field goes here, this field goes here. And then over time, our AI is actually going to pick that up and auto match for you. But for now, it's just saying, if your PDF says tenant mix and maybe ours says unit mix or something of that nature, you're just saying, okay, that field goes there, that field goes there, that field goes there, and then click upload and it's automatically imported.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense. As long as you can get the mapping set up between your system and the Excel file that's being uploaded, and from a PDF. So you're reading the PDF and transforming the data into, obviously these are JPEGs and what have you, or God knows what else they provide. They have to be a certain quality of data.
For sure. As long as they're in kind of like a table format.
Right.
We've integrated with actually another kind of premium software. It's called Click AI, and that's the software that's kind of under the hood that's parsing that information. But that's kind of been their bread and butter, is trying to automate. The whole premise for that company is basically click and you have a pro forma. And that's kind of that's the same technology that we're going to be utilizing. Yeah, that's probably been the biggest pain point for is anybody putting together pro formas that we've wanted to tackle. It's manual data entry gets old very, very quickly. So being able to automate that as much as possible has been a big focus for us.
Imagine you have reporting tools that, let's say, you pull up all of the properties we're looking at currently. What are the asking prices? What are the offer prices? The dates of the data that when it was uploaded. Is there some type of reporting feature as well?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, if obviously people aren't going to be entering more than one property, more than one project into your site. Right. It'd be nice to have a reporting feature that culminates all that data into one simple report that shows how many properties you have up there currently, and certain metrics of that property that might be important to you to pull into a report.
So like aggregating all of your different deals together?
Yeah, let's say I have 10 properties in there.
Okay.
Can I see them all on the dashboard and pull out certain data points like the asking price, our offer price, maybe date fields or what have you, that would be useful from a reporting standpoint. So we know what's up there, as opposed to somehow going into a menu and pulling up, months and months worth of individual records. It'd be nice to see them all in one place.
For sure. So like a portfolio view. So that's something. So that's not currently. That piece is not currently available. But it makes total sense. I would love to actually pick your brain on what you would like to see on that feature. If you have a.
Yeah. I imagine you have a SQL database behind the back end that's storing all the data.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, happy to talk more. I've spent 15 years building SQL databases, so I know a little bit about what's happening on the back end.
Awesome.
Daryl, you had a couple of questions also?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. I wanted to know if we could customize the underwrite to where we could really pinpoint and dictate, like maybe how many units are going to be renovated, when we want the renovations to start. Can we dictate that in the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess a background on this system. I can pull up the screen here, because I think this is kind of this is the second iteration of Rockval. The first iteration was built more for like let me see if it kicks me out or not. Yeah, I'll log back in here. So this is kind of all the capabilities that we do have. Some of these capabilities we have not brought into in terms of your user experience. This is the original Rockval. Looks much different than what we than what we were showing you before. But essentially, this was built for the most complex level of underwriting that you can imagine. So the flexibility is there. So like being able to go through like various like renovation schedules, for example, saying, you know, I want to renovate X amount of units on X date. I want to associate a duration of that renovation and then, you know, a cost structure on these different pieces. So this is kind of all the capabilities that we do have. And some of them are so that the renovation schedule is in the new system. But there's other features that we have that are going to be available to you over the next you know, few weeks, and that includes, for example, like waterfall structures, which seem to be a big pain point for a lot of people. So being able to do your operating, your resale waterfalls. If you're working with tax credit deals, you can calculate kind of a percentage basis there on tax credit financing. You can also you know, enter in different purchase assumptions. You can also add itemized cost groups, calculate your developer fee on a percentage basis on different items, various draw schedule metrics, and you know, the capabilities in terms of the underwriting. You know, this was originally built for you know, very, very granular underwriting, and what we've wanted to do and continuously strive to do is just make this whole process that, you know, is not necessarily very intuitive and bring into like a very step-by-step format.
Another question that Alicia had, Grant, was if we have individual contributors like property managers or brokers that are providing data regarding their deal, is it possible for that to be uploaded if the ESRA data is not up to date?
If the ESRA data is not up to date, can you upload
Data from, let's say, a property manager or a broker that has additional data like expense or income data? I'm assuming is what Alicia is. Alicia, if that's not correct, just unmute and pipe up.
Yeah, expense data could be a correction of square footage, cap rates.
So I guess my question is on which piece, on the underwriting piece, or like on the reporting of the kind of the demographics for that area or things of that nature?
Not necessarily the demographics, because they are what they are, but it's more specific to the property.
With respect to, I guess, the underwriting, like on the, when you're actually putting in like the expense information, like this one. Is that what you mean, or is that like
I meant more as it relates to the property data. So if the data is saying, you know, a particular property is a certain square footage or it's for sale for a certain rate, and the data that's in your system is not correct, can that be updated, especially if it's a broker's deal, if they're on that opportunity and they're selling it for 6.5 million, but in your system is showing up as 7.2.
Well, let me back up a second here. I don't think that and correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, I don't think the system imports that kind of data. You give it to the system.
Okay.
And so square footage and things like that, I know that you have every property in the United States on the site, Grant, but when you pull up a particular address, does it auto load things that it knows, like square footage of each unit, what the unit mix is? Does it pre-populate any of that stuff, or do you have to pull that out of the OM?
So that's there. Ownership information, square footage. So you would say like you would want to be able to update like the lot size here,
if it wasn't correct.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do this on this layer here, like because we pull that from tax assessor records.
Okay, so if it were inaccurate data, then do we have a process in place to say, look, we believe this data is not accurate because of X, Y, and Z? Is there a method to get it updated?
Yeah, like we could do that like on our back end processes, but then we also, so I guess the most important thing is that if you're presenting the information, you want to make sure that you're presenting it correct. So you would almost want like an override on your report for any given data point.
I would
Correct.
think that would be, if, I wouldn't think you'd need it often because 90% or better of the tax data is correct. But they're absolutely, like ownership data and stuff like that can change so fast that it's not up to date. Same way I'm thinking of, tax record that might not be accurate. It was reported wrong, parcel number got mixed up, something like that. Doesn't happen that often, but it does happen.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So is that a yes, it's something we have to look at, or is there a process in place?
Yeah, so we don't have a process in place for overriding like specific, like this is pulled like from the tax assessor. So if you wanted to, I guess, override that on the reporting, that's something that we would have to add.
Okay.
Um,
Again, I don't think this is going to be, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but I'll give you a perfect example here. You're built 1928. There's apartment complexes that part of the asset was built in 78 and another part of it was built in 2008. And if you say just one number, then it's not accurate data. And obviously we can correct that as we present it. We could go in and change the PDF version of the report and say, this data is, we can update that PDF to be accurate. But right now, what you're pulling from the tax assessor's office, we cannot. So does that answer the question, Alicia?
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Also, we had a question about pricing. So Grant and I right now are working together to try to give the GOB network a really great deal on pricing. I want to remind anyone who's been with us for 9 months to a year that when we first looked at Click AI, they wanted to charge us $400 a month. And I can tell you right now, this is not going to be anywhere close to $400 a month. It's not even going to be $100 a month. The pricing that Grant is offering us is, to I don't even know how he's doing it. We haven't settled on everything 100%, but I'm going to let Kay Trevor take over, if you will, because Jeremy Roll is on the other line about our conference, and I need to take that real quick.
All right, put me in charge. That's scary.
So yeah, no, our goal here, because so the original system I built out from scratch myself. So like there's so much of this like intellectual property and the pro forma underwriting, things of that nature, that was my night and weekends for a long time. But now, we're gearing up for an institutional round. With respect to Jim's comment on the different histories and data, we're constantly adding more data partners to this. So one of the next data pieces is construction, cost data, as well as permitting history on all these various assets. And then, we're open to suggestions on or other data sources that you would, potentially want to integrate into your experience as well. Where are we here? On the flexibility, so again, like we're a team of 7. We're going to be probably 20 by the end of the year. So like we're getting faster and faster all the time. So depending on what it is, we are very flexible at making various adjustments. In terms of non-disclosure states, so we don't have tax assessor history. One of the bigger things that we have in non-disclosure states is that CMBS data. And then as we integrate with other kind of capital markets platforms, we'll have more and more history on the non-disclosure states from what is, accessible by, I guess, by law.
Yeah, I dealt with this, something like this before. Actually, similar to this, where we were pulling stuff into the systems and it was going over the OMs and everything, and we had to upload and it had to kind of learn us putting the T12s and things up into the system. And the problems we were running into was like different PDFs and different T12s, how different they was. So we continued running into that problem. So the system took a long time to kind of catch up to the mapping of what we were doing as far as the mapping aspect of it.
For sure. That makes total sense. And that's and that's kind of the reason why we decided to integrate with Click AI for our OMs. I mean, our uploading of rent rolls and T12, because that's kind of their bread and butter, and they have it figured out, and we kind of rather offer that functionality to our system than try to recreate what they've been specializing in. But I actually just pulled up kind of like what agency and CMBS properties there are in Texas. So this is an example of Houston. All the CMBS or agency deals that are there. So this is kind of a show of how much data we have in just the Houston area for a non-disclosure state. So being able to pull up decent information regarding these different assets, CMBS history, when their expense per square foot, various kind of reports that these various operators have to provide. So having a lot of this data available, and then mandatory monthly contribution to Patreon for 2025. This is I know this was addressed at Trevor. This is kind of what we were talking about with Jim in terms of pricing. This part of this, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know that, but it was $5. But we're also, as part of the organization, and I know that the GOV network is a nonprofit, and part of this goes back to your organization to help grow it and make it better and things of that nature. And considering, there's a lot of technology here. Just for like CMBS data, you have to subscribe to quite a bit of. It's way more than $25 a month. So there's a lot of great data and capabilities here, and we're continuously improving and adding additional functionality as well. But from our experience, being able to kind of package all of these different pieces together will cost you, a lot of money. So hopefully, from our perspective, it seems like a great pricing kind of structure. I'm not sure if there's any other questions. Happy to answer.
So on there, Jim had mentioned the unit mix. I didn't see that, but is the unit mix broken down for multifamily inside of your system?
So the data that we get on multifamily, we're pulling from the assessor records. So in terms of like knowing that there's 101 units and 32 twos and things of that nature, that data is getting more and more populated over time. But that's not something that not all properties will have that. On the CMBS properties, we should have that information, but that's not going to be across the board.
So is that information that we can update if that property is ours or we've researched it?
For sure, for sure.
Okay. Can you map like major employers directly in the system? Because when we do our OEMs and the investor presentation, we like to map whatever major employers are in the system. And if that system can populate that in, it helps cut that time down than us individually doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have we've integrated with a company called Safecraft. They have location data and like employer and retail shopping. They basically have every company in the country mapped through their system. So being able to pull that directly into your OM, and I'd love to again like iterate on kind of how you like to present it as well. So I'm sure you probably have your own style of wanting to display that information, but that's we have that data directly available.
So can you pull up a map in the system and have that data pulled directly to that map?
So yes, we can, but can you do it right now? No.
Yet? Okay. But that could be an option that you're able to provide to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like we have another thing I guess I didn't portray here was one of the things that we wanted to really focus on here was the roadmap for our I don't know why this thing won't go away. But essentially for you to be able to like see exactly what we're working on. So like, this is actually done. And then being able to suggest new features and really have that really have a comprehensive experience with our users and members of our Rockdog community as well, so that if there's items that you're looking to do, then or like different functionalities that you need, then you can easily add this here, and we're definitely put it on our radar.
Cool. How swift are you all in making corrections and in updating the data that's in the system?
So different data sources will update at different intervals, but essentially having the ability to have the tax assessor records are updated weekly, CMBS is updated monthly. Each data source has its own life cycle on the updates. And that's a lot to do with where we're pulling and piecing all of this data together from.
And also, I'd like to comment on that, Grant. The first slide I think that Grant showed was where some of the data sources are coming from. And one of the big things that I see as what we as the GLB network can bring to Grant's process and to the data is being on that list. This data was sourced GLB network. Now, obviously, I don't think we're big enough to be up there with those guys at this point, but we started out with a very clear mission about underwriting very early on, which is we wanted to upload massive amounts of data and save that data and never throw it away, so that someday, maybe 3 years in the future, if we uploaded enough data, that we would have the most content-rich data site in the world for real estate, particularly for multifamily real estate, better than CoStar, better than any other platform out there. And that's, we kind of stumbled on that because people were afraid that I'm going to upload my OM and my T12 and my rent roll, and somebody else is going to see it and steal my deal. And so I think this is a perfect solution for us. you upload it into this system, it's only visible to you. It's not visible to anyone else, but we're still able to aggregate that data. We're still able to get all of that data and become just a powerhouse of information that I see us as being the biggest data source for this system. If we can get 1,000 members underwriting 10 deals every single day or 100 deals every single day, and we get all of that information into the system, the AI will, the more you feed it, the faster it grows. And I think that's where we can add massive value for Grant. And I think him offering the platforming, having it available, honestly, years and years ahead of what I thought it might be. And so I think that's where some of the synergy lies for us. And I did see in the comment section about pricing, and that is a target that we're working toward. Grant's trying to help me get to where we can offer this along with our Slack membership. That's going to be, we're getting ready to add that on as not as a free site, but as the paid site of Slack, so we don't have to lose all of our messages every 30 days. So we're trying to do that for $25 a month for a premium service for GOB members. In other words, you have to pay to get it, $25 a month, which I think, guys, come on, it was $400 a month just for Click AI. This has got Click AI in it. And Click AI is a year's worth of more data than what they had when we first talked to them. And so I think this is absolutely phenomenal. But that's me being, putting on my sales hat. I'm so excited, I just can't stand it, to quote the Pointer Sisters. But other questions, I feel
I'm
free
very excited as a terrible underwriter. It's my biggest bottleneck.
Yeah.
I beg people to underwrite for me.
And I think that that's the biggest value it brings, Trevor, is for the non-underwriters. But I think for the underwriters, when we first started this, the reason we were interested in Click AI is we thought, if I can underwrite 3 deals a day, how can I underwrite 10 deals a day? Yeah. Click AI was supposed to be one of the big pieces that allowed underwriters to underwrite a lot more deals. And so I think that this is really going to help both sides of the equation. It's not a panacea, guys, and I don't want to sound like it is. It's not going to have everything. We're going to find shortcomings, but the more we use it, the better it's going to get, because we're going to continually give Grant more and more and more information to upload and to make the thing smarter.
And sorry, Jim, I'd like to add to that. We're also, as a company, over the next few months, we're going to be securing a institutional VC round of approximately $5 million. And our team is going to scale out. So any of the feedback that is provided, we're going to be able to iterate faster and faster and faster in terms of the the portfolio reporting or the overrides and things of that nature. So, to add to that, we love the feedback. We want to make the experience as seamless as possible from start to finish. And then in terms of the underwriting capabilities, like the original system was built out for like an institutional level model. We saw shortcomings with that because having that kind of frame of mind, it made the system more complicated than it had to be. And that's where our whole focus now is, like simplicity and streamlined underwriting. And if we can help you underwrite as many deals as possible, all the better. So.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, but I say we as if I've already invested in the VC round. You looked at the Argus system and you were targeting some of those players and for those that don't know, Argus is what's used by most of the big private equity houses. And it is a very complicated underwriting system, and a lot of people can't use it, just don't have the ability. But when you said you simplify it with the Q&A process. The back end of what's actually happening is still a very sophisticated underwriting model. And if I'm not right in that, in other words, you're getting something more than an Excel spreadsheet on the back end of this thing.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's where like we're able to say, you know, in terms of like the partnership models and things of that nature. And you know, you guys are multifamily, but if you had any desire to look at any other asset class, you have access to all of those other asset classes immediately as well. So if it's office, retail, industrial, I'm not saying that, you know, to venture off from multifamily, but if an opportunity comes along, you have all of that data and all of that underwriting capability as well already in the system.
So Grant, a follow-up on that, you reminded me, because we have been focused on multifamily, but we've been branching out into other asset classes, but it's not industrial and retail. It's been mobile home parks, RV parks, mixed use, and also new development. Do we have any capacities yet in those areas? Any data that we're able to pull for those areas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have every parcel across the country. And then you still have access to the original system. And as we kind of take the new system and bring it up to kind of the level of granularity as the old system, not to mention like the new system has plenty of underwriting capability. And that's continuously evolving in terms of adding those additional layers. But you know, mixed use analysis, you know, partnership waterfalls, developer fees, tax credit schedules, hotels, things of that nature. Yes. So you have all of that capability.
So we just had the same question: can we do RVs and motels? So we have found that there are some differences in the way you underwrite an RV park as compared to the way you underwrite a multifamily. In particular, there's the expenses are very different. And there's different pieces there, but I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume, I should just ask, how does it pull data for those asset classes like RV parks? Is it able to compare data? Because especially RV parks and mobile home parks, so many of them are owned by very small mom and pop. They're not institutional. They don't even have property management software. You know, how do we account for those kind of things?
Yeah, so RV parks you can do your underwriting, and you can pull kind of property history and if I want to say if it's on the Fannie Freddie network, you're able to pull operating history, or you know, CMBS or Ginnie Mae. I'm not sure if they're underwriting RV parks. I know RV parks are becoming more and more popular.
Yep.
In terms of asset classes.
Yeah, not so much Fannie and Freddie. There are some that have been done with HUD, but most of the, and some with USDA, but not really. Most of it is, you know, local banks and that. And I don't know what they're reporting to or from, but we've been trying to find other data sources. It seems that some of the bigger players in the RV industry are good data sources. And I'm going to forget the name of it right now. There's a campground that you see in, you know, close to all major cities that apparently is, KOA. Yeah, exactly. That has been a good source of data. But I would, again, it's not going to be a panacea for everything, folks. And especially not at the price we're asking. But if we can give them enough data, that database will start to grow and it'll get better every single deal we underwrite.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of like the RV parks, if the CMBS markets and the Ginnie Mae, Fannie, we're not going to have that information just yet. But again, like we're continuously bringing on more and more data. So like somebody I guess asked about self-storage. So we have, so self-storage I know is on the CMBS. network. So we have all of the self-storage CMBS data. We also have transaction history and ownership for those properties as well.
Other questions? We're 4 minutes over the hour, so I want to wrap it up here if we don't have some other real poignant questions. Also, to let everyone know that we're going to try to have Grant on again if he's gracious enough with his time next week, and maybe go through like, well, whatever Grant wants. But I know we had a couple of people here that said, hey, can you kind of input a deal and show us what that might look like actually doing a deal, what, you know, kind of a tutorial, if you will. And we also had someone ask me privately if they have the ability to test drive it at this point. And if so, what would that look like? Where would they have to go to do like a test drive of the system?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of like getting back on another call, happy to do so. Maybe we do it for 2 weeks out, and now we'll get the latest and greatest kind of implementation, so you can kind of see what we've been working on over the last few months. And then in terms of trial access, if you email me, grant@rockval.com, happy to set up the trial. I'll probably send that out once we have that latest and greatest, so you can see, you know, just dropping a rent roll in there or T12 and having that auto map and having all of the data completely available to you while you're underwriting. That's kind of the next feature too, because we have the data on the mapping, but the whole idea was to make sure that that's completely visible throughout the entire process. So really having all of those comps and all of those data insights available to you during the entire process. So that's like that next level of underwriting that we're about to release. So.
Okay, great, fantastic. So we'll set you up and schedule you for 2 weeks out then, Grant.
Grant, could you repeat your email real quick?
Yes, absolutely. So it's Grant, GRANT @rockval, ROCKVAL.com. I'll write it in the, oh, somebody already did it. So yeah, that's the one in the chat there.
Thank you, Alicia. Yep, so 2 weeks out, this same meeting, 1 p.m. Central, Wednesday after next. And anyone on the network, let's spread the word so that we might have to do it in a webinar fashion if we, you know, I don't want to bombard them with 10 million questions, but I think, you know, we'll have something planned out that ought to answer a lot more questions for everyone. And if we have questions on the network, we'll start a conversation about it on the Slack channel. And Grant, if you're interested in, you know, I can send you an invitation, but we can try to answer as many questions as possible, even before the next meeting. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Grant, for giving of your time today. We really appreciate it. And I will say we are excited, super excited to bring this to the GOB network. It's something that I think is 10 years ahead of where we thought we might be. So very, very happy about it, and can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was great. It was great being here. And yeah, really looking forward to working with everybody here. If anybody has any comments, questions, or suggestions, you have my email, so feel free to reach out.
Great.